Hello, all you scaredy cats and kittens, and welcome to the Two Scaredy Cats podcast, where we talk about all things strange, unusual, and paranormal. We're your hostess with the mostest. I'm Stacy.
And I'm Kara.
So, Kara, did you come across or see any crazy stories at all this week or last week? I guess it's been like 2 weeks since we've been here last time. Have you seen anything? Heard anything?
Not that I can think of.
Have you done anything?
No,
fun
I've
and
lived in Iraq. That's where I've been. I've been living in Iraq.
Okay, you've been living in Iraq. All right, cool.
No, I've been playing the new Zelda game. What do you think I've been up to?
Oh, everybody and their grandma's been playing that new Zelda game.
Because it's good.
Yeah, I
you
might
should
have
get
to
it.
buy
I
that
think you'd
for
like
my
it.
Thing.
It's a little hard
is it
at
like
first, but it gets easier.
Is it like a one play, like a like where you move around and you can actually, like, you know what I mean? It's not one dimensional like it used to be, right? Is it more like 3D game?
Yes, it's like an open world game. Do you know what an open world game is?
Okay. Yes, because remember back in the day when you first started playing it, it was like this little tiny 8-bit character running around. Do you remember?
I know, but it's like way nicer.
Okay.
And they have
it's totally different. Okay. All right.
You can people have been getting very creative with, because you can build stuff now. You can combine.
Wait, so it's
stuff.
like Minecraft?
Yeah, it's honestly kind of like
Minecraft?
Minecraft. You can build
okay.
buildings and contraptions and vehicles. People have been going really crazy with it lately. Well, I think it's pretty interesting, but
it's kind of cool. Really. Last weekend your dad and I went to the Incline Theater in downtown Cincinnati, or it's not in downtown. I'm sorry, it's in Price Hill, but it's really close to downtown. So anyway. The play that we saw was Clue the musical. Oh my God, Kara! If it ever comes to Broadway, we have to go see it. It is hysterical. It is so funny.
Oh Lord!
It reminds me a lot of Beetlejuice, but it's around the Clue game, and that you actually they have where you're involved with the game. They have choose 3 people from the audience, and you have to pick cards like we used to do. When you played the game, and they would pick the suspect, the room person got killed with. Mm-hmm. They would put them up on the top of the staircase in the play that we saw anyway. And so nobody knew what was what the answer was. And there's 165 different scenarios of how it could end and who, you know what I mean? Who did what with who in what room or whatever. But it was really, really good. And it was a musical, and the songs in this were awesome.
Huh.
You would love the songs. They're really good and catchy. Like I said, it reminded me a lot of Beetlejuice.
Beetlejuice.
Which reminds me, the other day when I was, I don't know how I missed this, but I was looking and it came across my Facebook page because somebody's kid was in it or they were going to see it. One of the high schools around here, remember the Broadway show that we saw when we were in Canada, the really good one, all about
We
Queen?
Will Rock You?
Yes. Somebody put that on for their high school.
Wow. That's a weird choice.
I know. It was a very odd
weird
choice.
Musical.
Yeah, but it was really good though because it was all the music of Queen.
Oh, I know.
I've
it was a good
on Broadway since
musical,
then.
but it was definitely had some interesting.
There was some scenarios in there that I can't see them letting that age group.
That's
do.
why I was surprised.
Yeah.
I'm surprised they let us see it when we were in eighth grade.
I know that was interesting. The choice
at a Catholic school too.
I know it was a good show though. But
I mean, I loved it, but it was definitely I was I'm surprised they let us do that. Being an adult now.
You know that after that year, after you guys went, that got shut down, and they were only allowed to go to historical places like Washington D.C. or whatever after that. So you were the last class. You were the last class that they got to choose where they went. And we also ate at this really cool restaurant called the Klein Public House. And it sits right on the top of Price Hill, so we can overlook the whole Cincinnati skyline. We could see all the way over to Covington. We saw the revolving restaurant and that, and then you can see all the way past the stadiums and stuff, almost down and over into Mount Adams and that. It was really neat. We had a good time last weekend. But yeah, so that's all we did. But this coming weekend, me and Kara are going on a little road trip to go do something spooky somewhere.
Yeah.
To be
hopefully.
Yeah, to be determined. Because
literally right before we were gonna record, we had a tour set up at a haunted location, and they canceled it this morning. So that's kind of sad.
Yeah, so now we're scrambling to find someplace else.
I'm trying to find something else.
We have a backup one, but we're waiting to hear back from
Hopefully we hear back from them, because the person who normally does the scheduling is out of country, so they told me to contact someone else. So I really would like to go back to this place, but we're going to keep it a secret just in case.
Yep. So hopefully we get to go there, and if not,
I hope so, because this place we have been to before, but it was very spooky. Oh, I had another thing too we could do on Sunday. I forgot to tell you about. Mansfield. Well. The parapsychology convention is happening in Mansfield this weekend.
Yeah, but is it on Sunday. Our way home, or am I going to have to drive way out of our way to get
there? Yes, Mansfield's on the way from Cleveland to Columbus.
Okay, good answer.
So we could potentially, if the other place falls through,
if we get up early, if we get up early. It's only Sunday. They're not doing it Saturday too.
They are, but that would be out of our way.
No, I know what you're saying.
It's like an hour down. That way we can stop on the way home.
Yeah, that's fine.
And they have like vendors, and then it's only $25 admission, and you get to do the tour again too.
Okay.
And you know that stupid video we posted or that one video? Did you see it's still getting views?
Dude, did you see we're 1,000 subscribers? So thank you to everybody and anybody that is following.
Yeah, if you came from that video, which was at Mansfield.
Yes, we appreciate
So maybe we'll go back and we need to take more
you.
Video. Goodness, good lord, I didn't realize that content would be so.
I know. You need to scour your phone to see if you have any content. I feel like you took some video too. So
I took a lot of video.
Well, then look through your phone and send it to me so we can give it to the public. They want it. They love it.
I know, but it was.
We need to get it out
it was
there.
Such a short video too. Like I rewatched it earlier because I was like, "What?"
It was longer, and I had to cut a little bit off because we were both talking at that point where there was like...
Yeah, I heard a voice
right,
at some
but
point.
you could seriously hear a door slam, and there was nobody in that area. Remember, because that other group was behind us still. But you could definitely hear a door slam, and nobody was opening or shutting the doors. It was really bizarre. But anyway. So, alright, so let's go ahead and get started this week. Okay, so this week... I'm talking about black-eyed adults. Now, before everybody starts jumping my hiney about this is totally different than black-eyed children.
I mean, it's technically different.
No, it really is different. Wait till you hear. It really is different, because black-eyed children, they bang on your door and they want you to let them in so they can do nefarious things.
They have a very specific kind of thing
exactly,
they do.
And they're usually children.
Or they tried to get it in your car.
Yes, or the car, they will do that too, yes. And they're usually young children, like, between the ages of like 5 and say like 16 or 17. Now, with the black-eyed adults, this is mostly older people, like anywhere from like their 40s all the way up to like 60 and 70 years. I mean, we're talking older adults. It's not, there's no, thinking it's a young child. It's definitely older adults. So the deal is with, to start us off, here's like kind of like a rundown of what happens when people experience this. So all of the stories consist of older adults with black eyes. And they will usually move in a very slow, kind of jerky way that looks very odd to us. They're usually wearing strange and ill-fitting clothing. Like, the clothing does not look like it fits their body, like in some of the stories that I have. The one lady mentioned that the guy looked like he was wearing a pair of floods, like his pants were cropped or whatever. They also tend to wear clothing that is not of the time. So like, we're in, like what, wear 70s clothing, or they'll wear clothing that's not for the right, weather conditions either. Like in the one, it's like summertime and they live near the lake, and this guy's running around in a puff jacket and, jeans. So, they stick out like a sore thumb. They also, their skin is usually like very kind of white look, like really, really pale to almost green looking usually when you see these creatures. Almost everybody that has encountered them has a feeling of dread or fear and the urgent need to run. Now, in some of the cases that I found, time will stand still or slow down when they are around, to the point of the individual that's having the experience with these creatures will experience like normal time, but everybody else around them will not see or even know that these creatures or these beings or these people were there. It's really bizarre. So the first story I have, funny enough, is from Euclid, Ohio, which is actually where Kara and I are will hopefully be this weekend. It's up near Cleveland, up by Lake Erie. Anyway, this lady was, one morning she was out walking. She was taking her dog for a walk, Samson. And 10 minutes later, she come running back into her house. Her husband was sleeping in bed, and he heard all this ruckus downstairs, and he couldn't figure out what's going on. Why is she back already? Because she had mentioned she was taking the dog for a walk. And she was like, running around banging, trying to get her husband to wake up. So she told her husband what happened. She said she was out walking with Samson, and she suddenly got this very unwarranted bad feeling, and this feeling of her life flashing before her eyes. So she then told her husband that she saw someone a block down on the sidewalk from her and the dog, dressed very strangely and acting very strangely. So she said that this person was pacing back and forth and kind of looking over their shoulder towards her, kind of keeping an eye on what she was doing. So the lady decides, because of where they live near a city that is next to like the big city, Cleveland. So they have a lot of people on drugs and that sometimes. So she thought it was just somebody tweaking or whatever. So she started walking back to their apartment building, which sits on a private drive. So she's walking down the private drive next to their apartment building, and she's only a few steps onto the private drive when all of a sudden she notices that her dog has stopped walking and has turned around to stare behind her. So the lady turns around, and the strangely dressed individual is now almost right behind her on the street when he had been way far back away before. And the weird thing was that, or the thing that confused her was that this person traveled that whole, it was almost like a block, traveled that whole way without making a single sound. Like she didn't hear anything. And you know how sometimes when you're being followed or there's other people around you, you can hear their steps echo? She said she didn't hear any of that, which freaked her out. And to make it even worse, she said that he wasn't, how like when you walk or even run very quickly to catch up with somebody because you're further behind from them. She said he wasn't breathing heavily like he had been running or in a hurry like some people do. And that really, like I said, kind of messed her up a little, or made her freak out a little bit. So she described him as wearing winter clothes when it was obviously, a warm part of the season there and up near the lakes. He had on this puffy jacket. He had on jeans and, to where she's just wearing shorts and a t-shirt. His skin, she said, looked ashen in color, and it was like starting to sink. Like, if that makes any sense, it's like kind of drooping on his bones and stuff. And he was carrying this orange bag that he kept looking at, and then he would look at her like he wanted her to come over and see what was in his bag. And he just would keep staring at the bag and looking at her, and it really freaked her out. She said his eyes were also black, and she felt that he was communicating to her telepathically because she felt she had this inner voice that she felt like he was trying to tell her to look in the bag. She felt like she really had to do it. But then she had her own inner voice that told her to run and not to speak to him. So at this point, she's standing there, and he's staring at this guy, and he's almost right behind her, and a car comes up, luckily, and happens to pass by. So she makes eye contact with the driver of the vehicle, and that kind of forced the weird guy to kind of back away a little bit because, he is on private property at this time, and nobody, recognizes him because he's not any of the residents that live in that apartment complex. So the lady was able to quickly and safely get inside of her apartment, which required a key for her to get in. But as she's looking out the window to see what this guy's going to do, if he leaves or what way he's going in, she noticed that he's starting to go around to all the doors in the apartment building and starting to pull on them. So she's freaking out, but realizing that he doesn't have a key, so there's no way that he's going to be able to get in. So finally, after he tries 3 different doors around the apartment building, he looks at her and he grins. Okay, this is the weird part. He grins at her. And then he skips away like a little kid. Just skips away. Everything's fine and dandy. He skips, which is really bizarre. So she also said later on she had was talking about the experience again, and she said that the black-eyed being act like it didn't know how to be in his own body. Like his movements were very jerky, and it would keep grinning and then it wouldn't grin. Like it wasn't sure whether or not it, you know what I mean? Like it was trying to figure out how to grin, which made it look really weird and strange. She felt like it was wearing a skin suit. In fact, that's where they came. Yeah, ew. That's what her and her husband called it. It was like a skin suit because it was so loose and it hung like really weird on his body. Like his eyelids were like sagging, and its skin from his cheeks would just like hang. You know what I mean? Like, you know how sometimes they say that old people get like those hound dog cheeks, you know what I'm talking about, where their cheeks kind of look a little loose. Well, this person looked like he was dripping, you know, like he was just melting. And she said it also looked like this gentleman was wearing makeup, like really bad, like makeup. You know what I mean? Like it was crazy. So there are numerous stories of people seeing these black-eyed adults. And there's another one that I came across. This one happened in Australia, and this one is like really bizarre. But in September 2nd of 2000, there was this gentleman who was a bank executive, and he was working late at night at his bank. He was leaving for the night, and at this time, there was only 2 other people in the building with him. There was a gentleman that was on the actual same floor as him that was actually one of his partners or whatever. And then there was another guy named Stan, who was the security officer that worked in the building. So it's like 12 o'clock at night. He decides he wants to go home. You know, he's tired. So he gets on the elevator of this bank. Okay, keep in mind, this bank is locked. So, you know, unless you work there, there's no way you're getting into the bank. So he gets on the elevator and he's going down, and it stops on the 2nd floor. And on the 2nd floor, this guy who is not wearing like a suit or anything like that, gets on the elevator, and the bank guy that I'm telling you about, he's actually like one of the high, I mean, he knows almost everybody in the building. So he was like, he didn't recognize the guy, and he was almost going to ask him, you know, what floor are you on or whatever, but he didn't. And the guy next to him, or the guy on the elevator with him, asked him where he's going, you know, where are you going? And the gentleman, the banker, we'll just call him the banker tells him, well, I'm going home. And the guy on the elevator with him was like, well, why? And the banker was like, because I'm tired and I want to go see my wife. And then they don't talk anymore, and the elevator goes down, and he gets off in the basement. The banker guy does, okay? Meanwhile, the 6th floor button, and this building goes all the way up to 6th floor, has been pressed by the other guy that is with him. And so the banker guy gets off, okay, and the whole exchange was very weird. And when he gets down to the bottom of the floor before he gets off, he asked the guy that was riding on the elevator with him, and he had black eyes, by the way, the guy in the elevator with him, which kind of creeped him out a little bit. So the banker asked the guy, you know, well, where are you going? And the guy gets really nasty with him and says, nowhere. And then, you know, the elevator door is shut. So the guy starts running and freaking out. So he runs to his car very quickly and gets in it. And he starts driving away. Okay, now here's the really creepy, weird part. So he's driving down the street, you know, past his bank or whatever, and he's driving along, and he's about ready to turn a corner onto another street that's probably about 4 or 5 blocks down from the bank. And he looks out his window, and guess who's in front of him walking on the street? It's the same guy with the black eyes that's in the elevator that is walking in front of him, only a couple steps in front of him. Whoa. Which makes you wonder, how on earth did he get out of the elevator that was already on its way back up to the 6th floor and beat him when he was in a car and the other guy was on feet? So, yeah. Weird. So that totally freaked him out, and he said he broke a bunch of laws when he went home that night because he was so spooked by the whole incident. But, so the speculation with these black-eyed adults is that there's several of them. One of them is that they are aliens disguised as people, and that's why they kind of wear our skin like a skin suit, is what some people are speculating.
It's the most obvious.
Right. Everybody always answer. Yeah, everybody always assumes.
It's always aliens. If you're ever curious, it's aliens.
If you ever question anything, it's go to aliens first, because that's where everybody goes. The other thing that people think it's like demons or soul suckers that are running around trying to suck out your soul. And then the third thing and this is kind of like my kind of take on what it could be, are like zombies, like, you know, or necromancy, like zombies. People raised from the dead because of the way. Well, think about it though. When they talk about like necromancy, or when you're bringing people back from the dead, when they walk. Well,
who's bringing them back from the dead? I don't
know. Okay,
that's my question.
Who knows? I don't know.
Well, I feel like with the black-eyed kids, I thought it was like definitely aliens.
that always happened. Remember when there had been a UFO sighting or incident, and the little kids would show up.
It was typically around the same time. Yeah. Remember?
But this,
do you think the black-eyed men or black-eyed?
Wait a minute.
Adults,
wait. Hold on. How about this one?
I was gonna say, are they the same as black-eyed? The people in the black men in black. That I was like, why can't I think of the name?
No, but what if these older adults with the black eyes? What if they're lizard people? That could be. You never know. Anyway, so there's all kinds of speculation about what they are, but they do exist. And if you see one of these people and you're, you know,
do not interact, do not engage.
Yeah, exactly. Well, there's like one other story that I didn't talk about too much. I'll make it really brief. But there was this lady and her 3 adult daughters, and they were in New Orleans having a good old time. And they got on one of the trolleys one night. And when they got on the trolley, a gentleman got on the trolley after them. And everybody on the trolley grew silent. Like, nobody moved, nobody said a word, and the trolley dude didn't ring the bell that he always rang whenever anybody got on to let them know at what stop they were. The guy walks in, sits down by her and her daughter, and he turns around and looks at him, and he has black eyes. Now, so the guy gets off then at a different exit, and they stay on because they're freaked out, okay? So the lady turns to the another lady sitting behind her and asked her, oh, did you see the gentleman that got on? He looked really weird because he had the same description as we've heard before. You know, his clothes were all weird. His skin looked saggy. He looked a little green. He didn't look right. And she said, what? There was nobody on here like that. What are you talking about? And thought she was like out of her freaking mind. And that happened 2 more times to that same 3 people when they were down in New Orleans. They ran into the same creepy ass dude on the trolley. And the same thing happened. Nobody else saw it. Not even the freaking trolley driver witnessed him getting on the thing to pay his fare. Like, nobody would look at him when he got on. It was like he was using telepathy to make them all not see him or something crazy. But yeah, and that's another thing they say, that when these people interact with us, like they'll try and use telepathy to make you do stuff you don't want to do. And they'll also mess with time. Like, you'll have missing time, or time for you will be different than everybody else around you, if that makes any sense. So,
yeah,
that's why people think it's aliens, because, you know, aliens, it's said, can mess with time. You know what I mean? Make time mess with time. Mm-hmm. So,
time.
So anyway, so if you see any of these black-eyed people while you're out and about, especially if you're in New Orleans, avoid them at all costs and run the other way. Do not interact with them. They're not people or things that you want to interact with, because no good can come from it. But yeah, so that's my story. So what do you got for us this week?
We got something interesting today.
What do we have?
We're going to be talking about the Duende.
Ooh, the Duende. I've never heard of this.
I know, Duende. Ooh.
Where is it from? Wait, let me guess. Let me see if is it from the Southwest?
Southwest.
Yeah, like out in the Southwest? Like Utah, California, out that way,
no.
Las Vegas?
This is like, so this is kind of crazy, but like Duende are like everywhere.
Oh,
like,
okay.
It's kind of like Bigfoot, where like a lot of different cultures have their own Duende stories. Uh-huh. Or like variations of the Duende. So,
okay. All right.
We're going to be learning about that.
Let's unbox this.
We're going to be fun. So it's kind of funny how I found out about the Duende.
Uh-huh.
There's a streamer, like a Twitch streamer I watch.
Yeah.
And he, like, the Duende is kind of like a running gag on his stream, because he plays like a lot of horror games, and like one of the games he plays, it's like a alien simulator where you're like, there's like aliens that'll pop up and stuff. It's called The Void, and then, but he's always like, oh, is that a duende? Because the duende is like one of the creatures in the game. But he will have these horror nights where he will just watch duende videos. It's like a whole thing on YouTube where people will post their alleged duende spottings.
Really? Interesting.
So I was kind of curious. I was like, I wonder if there's like actual like
footage,
or, like
of
where the story came from.
Uh-huh.
Like where it came from, or like.
Oh, an origin story. Got it.
Like, I had only ever heard it from, like, this stream, but it's apparently a big thing. It's like, I looked into it a little bit more, and I was curious. So they're typically about 2 to 4 feet tall. They're kind of like a mixture of gnomes and elves.
Oh, so they're like tiny little people. They're not
They're
big.
little people. They're kind of like puckwudgies. I would say that they're kind of related.
Okay.
Remember how we talked about those on the stream?
Yeah, we've talked about puckwudgies.
I think you did.
Yeah, I did.
Not stream.
Well, on our podcast. Yeah, sorry.
I'm getting my things
Yeah, you're
mixed
getting
up.
things mixed up. Yeah, that's okay.
Anyways, so duendes translates to elf in some languages.
Oh, really?
But it's typically more associated with goblins. They're kind of like little goblin creatures.
Goblins are mean.
Yeah, they're kind of
tricksters.
There's some really weird. Yeah, there were some really weird stories, and there's apparently good duendes and there's bad duendes.
Huh?
I don't know.
Well, how do you know if you have a good one or a bad one? I'm just curious.
Allegedly, a good one is white, and then the bad ones are black.
Oh,
don't read into that too much,
right.
but that's what they say.
That's what they say.
It is a little weird. Yeah, this is straight from the thing I read. So, there have been sightings of this creature in Spain, Portugal, Mexico, Central and South America, Iberia, and the Philippines. Like, Philippines is a big one, apparently. Allegedly.
I feel like everything's kind of in the Philippines for whatever reason.
Yeah, I was like, oh, this is really big in the Philippines.
Huh. They have a lot of stuff they're scared of in folklore there, it seems.
Well, yeah, it's one of their, like, folklore things. So in Mexico, they believe that duende live in the walls of houses.
Oh, okay.
And they collect the toenail clippings of children.
Oh, so they're like house elves that collect toenails.
Yeah,
Ew.
So it depends on what story, but these... In Mexico, they're kind of like house elves, basically.
Uh-huh.
And sometimes they will remove a toe by mistake.
Oh my god,
so in the middle of the night, they'll just cut off children's toes.
No.
Isn't that disturbing? These things are kind of scary.
Okay, dude,
I do not want to see a duende.
Yeah, I'd be sleeping with my lights on. No thanks. I do not want to meet one of those.
Yeah, they're scary little creatures.
Huh.
So in Latin America, duendes are... this is like literal... They're like little tiny ghosts. They're souls of fetuses and unbaptized infants.
Oh my god.
They're hungry, persistent, nagging ghosts. It is difficult to reason with them or propitiate them because they do not speak or comprehend. They just yearn and they crave. They crave little violence. Duendes, but in some Latin American cultures, they are depicted with not having thumbs, which is a weird kind of thing.
Yeah, that's weird.
Those ones, if they don't have thumbs, they'll help children that are lost in the woods. So there are some good ones.
Oh, okay.
They're not all bad. It just depends on, like, what culture
So wait, I'm curious. Did you ever come across, did people leave offerings to them to help them not be so yearning for blood and, all that kind of stuff?
So it's weird. There was, like, apparently, like, Mayans kind of dealt with them, too. Like, some of the...
Wow.
Yeah, isn't that interesting? I was because,
wow.
like, Mexico is, like, by the Mayans. They're, like, from a while ago. It's, like, an old urban
That's what
legend.
I'm saying. If the Mayans were into it, that's, like, thousands and thousands of years.
So the first, like, dictionary description of the duende was actually in the 1609.
Okay.
In the Spanish... Okay. Well, okay, so there's one in 1607 in European texts. So these are also in European countries, apparently. And they're described as, the duende is described as a spirit of the night. And then in Spanish, Italian, and French dictionary, they're also referred to as a spirit who wanders around the house during the night in 1609. Huh. So there are, like, texts of these. Like, they're legit creatures, So there's a popular characterization of the myth that is known as the El Duende, which is different than just a duende. He's like a specific duende, and is a charming male creature who sings, causes mischief, and he occasionally causes violence. Some depict him as wearing a hat, which this is really weird, but some depict him as having backwards legs to confuse those who try to chase him to avoid capture. Like, his legs just are backwards. So he can...
That's weird.
Isn't that weird? I was like... I saw, like, the drawing depiction of it, and it looks really strange. And then the ones without thumbs look really weird, too. They're just, like, little nubs. Or, like, they got 4 fingers. So, the characteristics are vastly different between regions, but they're typically known for harassing young women. And they're often blamed for leaving them after they get pregnant. So these things are impregnating people, and that's why. And they blame a lot of. Yeah, they do.
Like
there is like some legends
basically?
where they are like changelings, where they'll come and like steal babies and stuff. They're just kind of all over the place. I won't lie. They're just little people that want to eat your toes.
So are they like considered a natural, like a earthen spirit versus, you know what I mean, like other spirits?
Don't know. Like I said, it depends on like what culture, because there's so many. Duende is just kind of like a big overarching type of creature, especially because there's so many different variations of it from like different countries.
Gotcha, right?
But apparently, it's like a legit thing. And when I was like doing my research, I saw a lot of people like commenting their own stories. Like this is like their own stories of their own interactions with these creatures, and like people very much believe that they are real. Like it's, you know what I mean? Like it's not like a like, oh, they're still going and causing mischief today. Yeah. Like it's just kind of wild, and they're still kind of like, you know. Oh, it's also said that if you step on one, you will be cursed. So do not step on one.
Uh-oh. Well, how can, if you can't see it though, how am I not to step on it?
I don't know. They're also, so some of them are known to hide your things. They'll come in your house and just hide your stuff for you. The Los Duendos. Duendes. And so it's pretty interesting. They would try to, so this one comment said, my mother used to tell me her experience as a kid, and they would try to lure her out of her home and ask her to come play in the mouth of a volcano.
What? That's messed up.
She and her brother slept together over the years, and she believed that only she was hearing them, and it wasn't until many years later she brought the subject out with her uncles, and they would hear them too. But they didn't want to scare, like, the mom, so they didn't tell her that, oh yeah, we're hearing these too, you know?
Wow, yeah, that's pretty messed up.
But yeah, there's so many stories of these things, and, like, people having experiences from all over. I'm surprised I had never heard of them until, like, literally it was just some streamer was talking about it. Yeah, and the videos are really creepy. Like, the Duende videos. You should have to go check them up. They're kind of spooky.
Really? Huh.
Like, they're just, like, they're always in the woods, and you'll just see something, like trail cameras.
Creeping around, yeah.
Like, something just, like, off in the background. But they're kind of spooky, so you should definitely, like, if you're into that kind of stuff, you should look it up.
So how do you spell it?
So, Duende. Duende.
Okay.
Yeah, I'd never heard of it before.
I haven't either. And it sounds like it's a more Native American thing, honestly. Well, kind of, a little bit. You know what I mean?
Probably could be. Like something it could be, like, we said Mexico. Native Americans were from Mexico. Yeah. So it's definitely could be like a legend or something. They might have a version of it, too. Like, it might be not the same. Some of them aren't called duendes, but they're basically described the same way, so they're still considered.
Because, like, Duende. Trolls and that could almost be...
They're also kind of... Yeah, remind me of that kind of folklore.
Yeah.
Or they're just like kind of... But it's kind of weird mixture of... Oh, they're also... Some places refer to them as, like, leprechauns, almost.
Okay, yeah, that was what I was going to say. They remind me of little leprechauns.
They're kind of like... Because they're kind of up to no good, mischief.
Yeah, they're always being mischief, and you gotta... You know, people chase them and all that. That reminds me of leprechauns. Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah, but you're not supposed to interact with them. Just, like...
Just let them do their weird thing and leave them alone. Gotcha.
Because, like, they'll try and lure you. Like, they'll be charming and then...
Yeah, sounds that way. Next thing you know, you'll be carrying around a little weird baby.
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah. Well, anyways, that's what we learned today about the duendes. Okay. It was really hard to find information at first. I had to really dig around to get, like, some good info about them.
Probably because they're not very well known. So if they're not very well
known... Like I said, they're not
find a lot of information.
Weird. They're, like, all over, but they're not, like, it's not like Bigfoot.
Right.
You know?
Huh.
But I think it's because it's not, like, not a lot of U.S. stories about
That's what I was just going to say. Maybe that's why it's not.
I feel like because it's, like, different countries. Like, there's not really any that I saw in the U.S.
Huh.
But now you know. Well, the streamer I did watch was from Sweden, so I wonder if that's why he knew about them. That's probably why.
Sense now.
Yeah. Because I hadn't heard about it, but he was talking about it on his stream, and I was like, oh, okay.
Because the Swedish believe in the trolls and all that, and they'll, and fairies.
They have some
stuff,
good folklore in Sweden.
They do. They have a lot of neat folklore, actually.
Yeah.
I wouldn't mind going to visit Sweden one day.
Me too. Me too.
We'll add that to our list of travel places.
Well, I want to go to, like, castles and stuff in, like, Europe.
So we need to go to, like, Scotland and Ireland where Aunt Mary and Uncle John were. Oh my God, they were telling me. They stayed in a castle while they were there. I know.
Yeah, you can just rent them on Airbnb.
I know. Isn't that cool? Let's go
I know someone who, like, lives over there, and they were like, oh yeah, you can just rent a castle.
That is it, Kara.
For, like,
that's our next thing. We're going to rent a castle for a night over in Scotland.
I know.
We'll have to get a group of people to go with us, though,
cool.
so we can pay for it, because I'm sure we can't afford it.
It wasn't the castle rentals aren't even that expensive. I was looking.
Yeah, but you got to remember,
they're not bad.
A lot of them though are in like very desolate places.
It's super rural. Yeah. So like you have to almost like find transportation there, which is probably hard. I
rent your own car and not die, because Uncle John was telling us about some of their drives when
there's cows.
Yeah, he said you got to watch out for sheep
that'll just like walk.
Yes, he said they just meander
sheep
in the,
and,
they just meander in the way and they won't move. He said it, and they'll come out of nowhere. And he said the roads there, the speed limit is much higher than you think it would be for a road that's that windy and narrow. And he said it was very scary driving on those roads and very harrowing.
It sounds scary.
Yeah, because the locals will drive through there at 60, 70 miles per hour. Meanwhile, Uncle John said he was going like 30 and he was like worried. But yeah.
That's great.
Yep. So, okay. Well, so I guess that's all we have for today. So.
Yeah. Hopefully we'll be going on an adventure this weekend so we can talk about it on the next podcast. Hopefully. But that'll be up in the air until,
fingers crossed.
Get back to me soon.
And remember, do not, if you see a black-eyed adult run, don't stop and chit-chat with it. And if you see...
Do not interact with duendes.
Yep, don't interact with them either. Stay away.
They apparently look like they got like little squished faces.
Aww.
Some of them, like, they kind of look like old, really tiny old people. Is what some of the
little troll dolls, the little trolls.
Yeah, they're really like old looking.
And they look grumpy too.
Yeah, some of them. You should look at them.
Really?
The depictions of them are really creepy.
Huh.
Like,
I'll have to check
spooky.
That out.
Yeah, and then watch the videos of them too.
Yeah,
it's kind of creepy.
Huh.
Like, there's a lot of duendes caught on camera videos. Which I said, I never would have known if that streamer hadn't talked about them. But yeah. Alright. Well, is there anything else we have today?
No, I think that's everything.
Alright, well, if you enjoyed our podcast today, follow us on Instagram at 2 Scaredy Cats Podcast, and please be sure to leave a review on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. It really helps the show get discovered. And tune in 2 weeks for a new episode. And to all our scaredy cats and kittens out there, remember, curiosity didn't kill these 2 scaredy cats.